Episode 35.
We started?
Yeah.
Yay! Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome to Into the 99, where we have 99 cards, because Commander number 1. And I'm one of your hosts, Sherman.
I'm Hope.
I'm Daniel.
And I'm Brian.
And today's episode, we're going to talk about priority and the stack.
Probably the most confusing and intricate part of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, besides filing taxes.
Magic the Gathering.
But
Land taxes.
land
I
taxes.
hate myself.
But with that, though, we have to talk about one thing before we talk about priority and the stack. And that's the different phases that we go through per turn. Okay? Because there are certain things in each phase that you can react to or you cannot react to, things like that. So we're going to cover that really, really quickly. Well, not really quickly, probably like, an hour, 2 hours, who knows. And then we're going to talk about more about priority and stack and going in depth into it.
Yeah.
So, let's start
You
off.
need to understand phases before you can understand the stack. That's just what it is, what it boils down to.
Well, it's like,
I'm just here to learn.
yeah.
To be honest.
But like, let's face it, okay? Like, going through the phases is important because you have to understand what you're able to do and what you're not able to do.
Well,
right?
well, the phases do still, in a way, use the stack. Like the passing priority through the phases does use the stack. Going to end your turn, people can respond to it. So it really is very relevant to the stack itself, even though it seems really, really elementary.
Yeah, they are intertwined deeply.
So, let's start it off. First thing that we're going to talk about is the untap step.
It's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, you just untap your stuff.
Swoop, swoop.
You cannot do... Well, all you can do is really untap. You can't cast any spells or anything like that during that time period, okay? So you can't cast anything. Your opponents can't cast anything. There is no priority here. Everyone... Like,
It
you
just
just
happens.
untap. Yeah, it just happens. It's automatic.
Unless something's stopping it. Again, so many things are weird about this because everything just happens unless it doesn't.
Unless
Yeah.
it doesn't. But it's like everything untaps unless like something skips an untap step.
Stasis.
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
Or like a creature stays tapped because of this, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
But
So,
not
but-
really.
But yeah, we're
Without any...
yeah,
like,
we're not
without
going to
any
talk about
adverse effects.
yeah,
Yes.
we're just going to talk about the general. Like, we understand that other things happen, things don't happen, replacement effects. We'll be here all day giving examples of it. No.
Like I said, 2 hours.
Yeah.
So
Untap, things untap. You can't
Yeah.
do anything. It just happens.
then we have phasing, but we won't go into phasing. Okay, whatever. Then we come to the upkeep step. So in the
Untap is
upkeep,
my favorite step.
any player can cast instants and activate abilities, okay? But there's one thing about the upkeep step. Normally during upkeep, we have things that trigger during the beginning of upkeep
Yep.
and things during the actual upkeep itself.
Triggers.
Sacrifice
Yes.
a creature in your upkeep
Braids.
versus at the beginning of the upkeep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I see that people make a mistake about is, let's say you have like 3 things that have at the beginning of upkeep do this. You can decide
What
which
results first?
Yeah, you can decide which ones trigger first. Like they all trigger,
Yeah.
but you get to choose which one first.
Yeah, because they all trigger at the beginning, but one of them has to be the first one.
Yeah.
It's just a fact.
And one thing I have to note, we'll probably talk about this again because this is something that really, really annoys me, and I tend to get into arguments with people, is during the beginning of the upkeep, they'll copy something that says, oh, when I copy this, I get to do it again because it says during the beginning of upkeep. No,
do
that
not.
does not happen. The beginning of upkeep is already going on.
Yeah. Exactly.
You cannot...
It can't be the beginning
if you're already in the beginning.
In the upkeep, it's already past the beginning of the upkeep. So
Yeah.
if you cast something during that, like you could, like for example, you could make a second braids in your upkeep, but you wouldn't get 2 triggers.
Yeah, you wouldn't get
until-
an at the beginning.
Yeah,
until
exactly.
the next upkeep.
Yeah.
So.
Besides the fact that she's legendary, we'll ignore that.
Yeah.
Let's say Helen Host. Who knows?
Or
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah, but like you copy her, okay. You only get 1 braids trigger. You don't get both. Okay. So, and this is something I have arguments with people about constantly
Yeah.
when they don't understand that. They understand that for combat, And I always use that as an example.
Yeah, I was going to say, we actually used this as an example on our last stream last Wednesday. Check it out. And that was that Brian was playing a Kalia deck and he dropped in, I think, Tyrant's Familiar. And I believe, yeah. And so it has, whenever it attacks, you can deal 7 damage, but it didn't attack. It entered attacking. You put it in attacking. It didn't go into the attack.
Yeah.
It wasn't there during the attack.
Yeah,
phase.
so
Yeah.
it was never declared as an attacker. It just is attacking, which
Yeah.
is the same thing, but that's a lot easier for people to understand. It's more intuitive.
Well, yeah, like the best way of looking at it is if once the at the beginning happens, everything has to be out. And also another really interesting thing is that you can't remove an effect after. So nobody gets priority in the untap. You can respond to any triggered ability. So anything like Braids at the beginning of the upkeep, put a creature, artifact, land, whatever into play. Swords to Plowsharing Braid will not take that trigger off the stack.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Neither will if somebody has a Felidar Sovereign out, for instance. You can't kill it once the upkeep has started. You'll have to kill it before the turn or it will trigger.
Yeah.
So you either have to respond to its trigger with damage or the game is done.
Yeah. So that's with the upkeep. Okay. Oh, and at this point in time, if you have any kind of mana, this is where mana goes away. Okay, because we're changing phases.
Yeah, as phases end. A lot of people do forget that
Yeah. So
if you had 3 floating, you lose that 3 floating once you attack, or
It's gone.
yeah. So
unless you're Omnath.
Yes.
so now we go to the next phase.
Or snakes.
What?
That was an interesting one. A lot of the snakes give you mana that doesn't phase out
Until the end of the turn,
until the
yeah.
end
Yeah.
of the turn, which is, but again, specific things that are
Yeah, like the group hug kind of snake things.
super interesting.
And
Very cool. We learned that yesterday. It was very neato. Anyways,
so next phase is going to be a draw step. Okay, drawing a card is not part of the stack, but you do have abilities that will say
that will like trigger or activate because of draw.
yeah. So if like Howling Mine,
Yeah.
for example, okay, every time you during your draw phase you draw an additional card. That is using the stack.
Yep.
Drawing your very first card during your draw phase is not part of the priority or the stack.
Yeah, and I can't, once you draw, I can't say, in response to your draw, I'm gonna...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean in response?
Because there
to my
is no draw, yeah.
There's no response to my draw.
Yeah, it's just an automatic thing, okay? And then, like we said, you're going to have cards that are going to say, like, either draw extra cards, or you can skip your draw, you know,
Or
things like that.
whenever you draw.
Yeah, replacement effects will happen, but there's certain... The same thing is true with playing a land. Is you can play a land. If I want to put a forest down, nothing can stop me from putting a forest down as long as I'm in one of the main phases on my own turn.
Yeah.
But if somebody has a Field of the Dead trigger, for instance, you can respond to that trigger. So if Field of the Dead enters and you have 7 or different lands, you can respond to the enters trigger by blowing something up with Ghost Quarter or Field of the Dead or Field of the...
Field of Ruin.
Oh, sorry. Field of the Dead on my mind. Yeah, exactly. Any of those. So any response that you get with those things, you can respond to triggered abilities, but you cannot respond to just a state-based action of playing the land. You can't stop them from playing a land. You can't respond once their turn starts if they've taken no actions. You can't make them discard their hand before they do something. They just get the priority. You can't supersede it.
Yeah. And, like, most of us, we tend to shortcut through most of this.
Oh yeah.
In all
We
honesty.
all rush through steps.
Yeah. But, like we've only
Especially when
gone
you're
through
playing
3.
casually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've only gone through 3 steps so far. We
Yeah.
still have, like, how many more?
Well, and that's a lot of people think it's just untap, upkeep, draw, main,
Yeah.
combat. That's it. And then they don't realize there is the second main, that combat
Honestly,
itself has a ton,
Yeah.
that the end step.
Combat main phase is probably like the most overlooked part of.
Yeah, people don't use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
I'm just getting so excited.
Yeah, I have to say, actually, playing Arena really, because you have to click that button to progress through the phases.
Yep.
Yes.
I literally said that last night to Daniel. I was when we were discussing what we were going to talk about this episode. I I was saying to him, I'm like, I really think that playing Arena would be really good for like new players because it forces you to learn the steps and it forces you to like make sure that you're recognizing state-based actions in the stack, and because it's programmed into it.
Yeah, and you can set stops too if you want.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's really valuable for learning that kind of stuff and not developing really bad habits.
Yep.
No, I still develop bad habits.
But like you're a new player though, like
yeah, it's very true.
That's
Well,
a really
very true.
excellent learning tool.
Well, like Sherman mentioned earlier, we do really jump through those phases really quickly because there's so many times that you see a threat and you're just, ooh, I got to get rid of that right now. You're very, very excited, and Jinja Taxis comes out. Suddenly 3 people want to Swords to Plowshare it.
Yeah.
Brian's group hug duck fails.
Not in group hug anymore.
So that's with the draw. Let's just go on to the main phase, a pre-combat main phase.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably the step in which you're going to be doing the absolute most in any game of Magic for most people
Yep.
is
Yeah.
pre-combat main phase.
This is where you cast stuff with flash, right?
This is where you cast stuff with Flash.
But like as we said during the
Leyline
main
of
phase,
Anticipation, who?
main phase you can basically cast sorcery speed spells, instant speed spells, stuff like that.
Anything you want.
Anything you want, basically.
This is where you play your land. This is
Yeah,
where
you can play
if you want.
you can play your land on your post combat main phase
but
as well.
during
But
your main phase is where
Yeah.
you play land and sorcery speed spells.
yes, so during that time, like you how can I say it? You get to do stuff first.
Yeah.
Okay, you are the active player. You get to cast stuff, and then
It's
priority
your
will pass
turn.
around.
So
Yeah.
you are number one.
Yep.
So it's basically like, okay, I cast a creature, okay? If I want to cast another sorcery speed spell, I have to wait and see if everyone is...
Going to respond to that.
Yep.
Yeah. But if I want to add something to it, okay, where I cast a creature and then... let's say I already have a creature, a planeswalker instead. Let's do that, okay?
Oh yeah, this is a great one.
Yeah. So the planeswalker, if I cast a planeswalker, okay, I still have everyone can
Respond
to it, okay? But I have priority where I can activate it at least once.
Yeah.
Yeah, if someone doesn't have a response before it enters, no one can do anything after.
Yeah.
You get the chance to...
You get the chance to roll it up or roll it
Someone
down.
can respond with a counter activated ability or respond to the ability itself, but they cannot stop you from moving to activate it.
They can destroy target planeswalker, but you still get to get it off one time.
Oh, they can't. They can't even put destroy target planeswalker on the stack until you make your
yeah,
action.
but that's what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
they can destroy it after. Like if it hits the battlefield, you get the one.
You get the priority.
The action of the planeswalker would count as an instant, correct?
No,
No, activated.
it's activated, right? Yeah. But it's like you can't destroy the planeswalker when it hasn't entered the battlefield yet. Yeah. Once it's entered the battlefield, okay, it's fair game. But you're still the active player.
Yeah. So since it's entered, you get the opportunity to
use it at least once, right? So that's what I find. That's what people get stuck with. Is they're like, oh, well, as it's coming in, I'm going to do this, but it hasn't entered yet.
So then, so planeswalker's been cast, no reactions, it's in play.
Yeah.
You, being the main player, has moved to cast something else. Someone can then...
Yes, if you were taking another action, but not until you choose to take that action. Another really good example is we all know what split second is. Split second is the fastest speed in Magic, but you still can't just play split second at any time. So a really, really good example of how split second doesn't work is, let's say that I have Goblin Bombardment out. It allows me to sacrifice a creature and deal 1 damage to target player. When I sacrifice the creature, Sherman can cast Crossing Grip, and I won't be able to activate anything else on the stack because Sherman has gained priority. He's put split second. I can't do anything else to stop that from happening. The split second resolves, Goblin Bombardment is there, and my sacrifice outlet to do damage is no more. My 20 other creatures can't happen. However, if I'm the active player and I say I'm going to hold priority and I'm going to sacrifice these one at a time, Crossing Gripping it at that point won't stop me from putting 20 interactions on the stack because Sherman will not get to cast it until priority is passed.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing with priority. It comes down to basically sorcery speed and instant speed. Okay. When you're holding priority, it's basically you're trying to combo off things or trying to do other stuff, but it's all based around instant speed stuff.
Well, and in that same interaction that I was just talking about, had it in that same situation, it goes to Sherman's turn. I have gone a Goblin Bombardment out 20 creatures. Sherman's at 20 life. Sherman's drawn. It's gone to we've gone through all the steps, and I'm just waiting to see what he's going to do. Sherman goes to just decide he's going to destroy it. He Krosan grips. There's no chance for me to do any action because I can't sacrifice them before he makes a play. I can't respond to he plays a land and in response I'll do 20. Yeah. I have to wait until I get priority to activate any abilities.
And if he does that before you.
Yes, exactly. So if he Krosan grips me, there's no chance for me to actually respond. And when you get into more competitive games, things like that really, really do matter. Like stuff like a food chain, stuff in any of those. Staff of Domination is a really good example. Is another mana filter one. And if somebody gains priority before it resolves, then they can get rid of it. Priority is a very, very important thing to know when you have it and when you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that Goblin Bombardment example is exactly that. Like, it's whether you win the game or you lose the game, basically.
Yes, exactly. If I'm just waiting, some people don't know how to end a game. I'm guilty of it myself. I sit there and I joke around all the time. I don't kill people. All of a sudden
I kill you.
Because I just like to see...
You like seeing decks go off,
especially,
let's face it.
Yeah,
I like killing you.
Yeah, so in a lot of token decks, something that I'm traditionally bad for is I'll just sit and try and see how many tokens I can get instead of swinging with them.
Daniel's sitting there with 10,000.
And then suddenly I get Rakdos Charmed and things that aren't great.
I don't know who would have ever done that to you.
Yeah, Hope hit me with the Rakdos Charm, lose a life for each creature I control.
That was your first win against him, wasn't it?
It was like my second Magic game.
It feels bad. But
and I'm not over it.
But so exactly in that situation that we were talking about, no matter if I have the win on deck, if I don't have the priority to activate the win, then it doesn't matter. It's no different than a sorcery speed card at that, because I have to wait until Sherman makes an action to try.
Yeah.
So he goes to cast a spell. Now I gain priority, and I'm going to in response to a spell. But until he makes that cast, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, you can't respond to anything that doesn't exist.
Yep.
That's why even the verbiage for in response is so important, because it is responding to something.
Yeah, you have to have something to actually respond to.
Yeah.
But I do think a lot of us are pretty guilty of just forgetting that we can't play through someone else's turn. It's kind of like kind of like a basic manners thing, you know, like you can't interrupt what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Until they've done it, you have to have something to. Instance used to be called interrupts.
Yeah, for a reason. And I think that's another really good thing to like fall back onto is like think about exactly that. Like interrupt. What are you interrupting? Right? Like,
yeah.
That's something that like if you're newer to Magic and you haven't seen a lot of those old cards, like you might not have even known that they used to be called interrupts. I remember when I first learned that, I was like, "What even is this?" I hate it.
Like, is this what new mechanic?
Yeah, what's an interrupt?
Yeah,
but yeah.
It's fun going through the history of things like that. You know, what's an interrupt?
My favorite is Enchant World.
Oh yeah, local enchantment, global enchantment.
Love it.
Was it target creature is buried?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because like buried is basically destroyed but you can't regenerate it, and that's what they just said for now on, kind of deal.
And I'm like, I'm like, what the heck is?
Yeah, Magic had a lot of really, they did really clean it all up, and they
streamlined it.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, they've made a lot of good changes and really streamlined the game.
Yeah.
But this is the reason we wanted to talk about this so much is because it's such a weird thing for people to actually understand and get, because later on we're going to talk about what's going on the stack and how things work and stuff. And there's a lot. The stack is a wonky place for sure.
Yeah. Well, and as every single new set comes out, there are more interactions potentially on the stack. There are more ways to fiddle with priority and what you can respond to and how things like look at Ikoria with the mutate ability.
Yep.
Like that is a new ability and it's weird.
Well, and
so
how
great.
You respond to it is
so
weird.
great.
Yeah. Well, Magic is a complex game full of complex rules that they constantly say this rule doesn't matter to.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like it's a really good example of something I wanted to talk about later, but we'll get into it now with the Ikoria. We were playing and somebody attempted to mutate a creature. So mutate onto target creature. I destroyed the creature in response. Because in everything else Magic related, if your spell doesn't have a legal target It's just
It fizzles.
exiled.
Yeah, so we try to use an aura, for example.
Yeah.
It just goes away.
So if you try to, for instance, hex, destroy 6 target creatures, if one of the targets isn't legal, it doesn't have legal targets, it can't resolve. That being said, I went to do that because that's how Magic functions. But the mutate mechanic functions differently because the rules...
Because why not?
Rules
Yeah.
Design Committee just
It's like-
decided why would we be consistent with it?
It's like a bestow, but not a bestow, in a sense.
Well,
Yeah.
So
Bestow is the only thing that does function that way, and if you remove the target, it just enters as the creature anyways.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's how mutate works. Is if the target for the mutation is no longer there, it just enters as the creature.
It's just like, oh, cool.
you just get a creature then,
yeah.
probably at a cheaper cost.
But in a general, like if I tried to do something that was destroy target artifact and target enchantment, and then all of a sudden the enchantment's gone, I can't target both, my spell's gone. The same as if I try to, hey Brian, I'm going to Swords to Plowshare your Avacyn, and Brian just either gives it hexproof so it can't be targeted, no longer has a legal target, that spell just ceases to exist off of the stack.
Yeah. That's why I love, like, I'm trying to build a deck again for Wrath Capuchin just because it's such a silly commander. It's a cheap commander too, but it's like using him with like a Word of Spark Planeswalkers because they're all historic, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to target you with this fireball. Oh, no, I'm going to bring out, what's it? The one that gives you hexproof, you know? It's like,
Yeah, flash out Shylai.
Yeah,
or
like-
flash out Spellskite because artifacts are historic.
yeah, like it's
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
they
so
are.
much fun. Oh, you're gonna storm off a Deafening Sphere? Yay! Anyways,
that's crazy.
Raph is a cool deck.
Yeah.
it's a cool commander overall. You can build so many things, but once again, we're going.
Yeah,
off
we're
topic.
still far ahead. There's still more phases.
Let's
so
hit
once
combat.
once you're done
Okay.
your main
Oh,
phase,
do you have something else to talk about for main base?
No.
Oh.
One thing I do want to note though, okay, is if this is something that we've all seen, okay,
And we're probably all guilty of whatever you're about to say.
yeah, it's like we're in your pre-combat main phase. Don't just go straight to like, okay, my end phase.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell people like actually go through the steps, go through the combat phase, go, declaring attacks. Even if you don't attack anyone, go through that, go through your secondary, and then go through the end step. Okay.
it's good to know.
The reason
Because there are like things that you can do or other people can do in these
Yeah.
different phases.
Yep.
And even like I was using this example in one of my decks. I have the Rhino that has Lieutenant. I can't remember what it's called, but it
loyal, whatever.
yeah, Loyal Guardian maybe. When
Yeah.
you enter at the beginning of your combat phase, put like a 1/1 counter on every creature you control, I think it is.
Yeah, one of those.
And like, so that still happens. Even if I'm not attacking, I still enter combat.
Yeah,
The
just
phase
because
still
you're not
happens.
attacking doesn't mean a combat phase does not happen.
Yeah.
So,
And,
same with Helm of the Host.
Helm of the Host is a good one. There's a card from one of the recent commander sets, and it's actually one I was looking for a deck I was building over the last few days. And it can only be played during combat. Your opponents can't cast spells for the turn, and the combat step. So even if you're not actually attacking, you can still go into combat, play the card, stop them from going, and proceed through the turn. But a combat step still happens, and people still get a chance to respond.
Yeah, just because you're not attacking doesn't mean combat doesn't exist.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just a moot combat.
And it also matters a lot because people will float mana during phases.
Well, and
okay.
that's a really, really good point. I do that all the time. Somebody will do a board wipe, and I'm going to put 10 mana into my pool because I love to play like Land of War Elves, stuff like that. So I'll put 10 mana in the pool, a bunch of that.
That's nice.
Saying they go to combat will remove it. So if I'm in a blue deck, I've got, like I said, I tap a bunch of Land Wars, I have a bunch of floating mana, well, I'll put 13 into the pool. Then you say, okay, I'll go to combat. That forces me to react or lose that mana. Even if you're not actually going to do anything there,
it doesn't matter.
You're still forcing a
phases
lane
out.
change or a phase change.
Yeah, because if you don't say anything, then I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you're still in your pre-combat.
Yeah, no, that's a super good point.
Yeah. Well, like,
And a good way to like draw people, to bait people.
yeah, and that's the thing, okay? Because like we've seen it where people are in their pre-combat main phase, and like let's say like Daniel board wipes, okay, and I'm floating the mana, all right, like he's going to force me to use it, but we've seen other players, especially the newer ones, are just like, oh, I'm going to go to my end step. Like, well, hang on,
Yeah.
Before your end step, I'm going to do all these things. Like, but how do? Yeah.
Or-
how can you do that? It's like I'm changing phases. Like, yeah, but we're still in your pre-combat because you didn't declare anything else.
Well, and one thing also is when people enter combat is that they just say, "Okay, I'm going to attack."
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of people do speed through that.
I'm really guilty for that,
Yeah.
especially when we're just playing tabletop.
And we're playing. Yeah, it's not a big deal. And people
But-
will back up and everything.
Oh yeah.
Well, and the reason you should stop doing that is because a lot of times, like let's say I'm playing Zur the Enchanter. If I go to swing with Zur, he has a targeted ability. So everyone gets to respond before I can put that, I move to combat. Once I declare him as an attacker, doesn't change his trigger.
Yeah.
So you can't wait to see if I'm attacking you to see if you want it. Again, you don't have a chance to respond once it's happened.
Yeah. Once he's attacking, it's too late. That's the same with Kalia. Once she's attacking, it's too late.
That would be like the same thing as like what are you putting on it?
Whoa, is it resolving first?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, is it resolving? Like, I'm not going to tell you what I'm putting on my.
For you to decide.
Yeah.
If you want the Isochron gone.
Well,
get rid of
or a
it.
clone. I'll cast clone. What's it going to enter as? I'm not telling you.
Yeah. It hasn't entered yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have to tell you till it's on the battlefield.
Yeah, it's a clone on the stack. Do you want to counter it or not?
Yeah.
So one of the really important things about this too, and I do this a lot, okay, is using vehicles. Because you cannot crew a vehicle before or during combat when you're declaring attackers. Okay, you have to crew them and then declare attackers.
Otherwise, it's not a creature.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Oh yeah, because in declaring, you can only declare what you're attacking with.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of that step.
Yeah. You cannot crew like this came up because during one of the tournaments, like someone just said, "I'm going to combat," and try to crew and then attack with it, and they're like, no. Like I can't remember when this happened. It was during the time when like Kaladesh and
I was gonna say it would have been a little while ago.
Yeah, because it was during standard, right?
Yeah.
But that's where this came up and everything, and they're like, the rules is that you have to crew a vehicle first, and then once you're done crewing a vehicle, it is a creature, and then you can declare an attack with that creature during the combat
But
steps.
it's also
Yes.
But it's also a creature in the fact that like I can now treat it like a creature.
Yeah, so you can like swords it and all that stuff, right? So, but if like you can declare it as a creature any time, but you just can't attack with it.
Exactly. Well, otherwise, like people would never crew out before combat because if you crew, like crewing before combat means I'm able to respond to the fact that it's now a creature.
Yeah,
and that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
So.
This is all during the pre-combat main phase. Bloody heck! Like,
there's a lot. It's the main phase.
Yeah.
We're not even at the combat.
Let's hit combat then.
All right.
I enter.
Exactly.
So we enter. Brian's gonna attack me. Okay. So
He sure wants to.
So during in combat, there's a bunch of different phases, but basically, let's just go through this. Okay. Brian's going to say he's going to go to combat. Okay, this is when he's passing priority to see if anyone has responses before he starts declaring attackers.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like, yo, Brian, who are you gonna swing at? Daniel? Me? You bastard. No.
I have to say that I'm actually surprised, like looking at the diagram that we have up that's showing all these phases, is that even between each of these steps within combat, the
mana pool will empty.
Yep.
Yes.
I think I've been super guilty.
Lots of people are,
believing I have floating mana. Like combat phase, like that, I
It's
should have
just
my
a
mana through the entire thing, right? But no,
No. So you can't float it in between during this time.
You can't float at the beginning of combat and then still have it
at the very end. Yeah. So, but like Brian will go and declare attacks. Okay, and then let's say he goes after me. Okay, I can respond with defenders. And Brian and Hope, they can Daniel and Hope can respond with activated abilities or instances, even if they are not being attacked. It does not matter.
It can be,
but only in turn order as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, which matters a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's the whole thing about not like dropping, counting out your chickens.
Don't blow your load early is what we call it.
Yeah, don't blow your load.
Well, it's a common thing. like let's say like
Well, it's like if Daniel has a response, why would I waste my response?
Yeah, we've mentioned this in many episodes.
Let somebody else deal with
constantly,
my problem.
we always mention
But
this.
that being said, so no one can see how we're sitting. But if we were in a turn order, it would be Sherman, me, Hope, Brian. If
Well, roll better.
So if I have Sherman has Phage, the untouchable out. If it deals combat damage to a player, that
lose.
player's gonna die. Yeah. He swings, the priority goes to me. I can't wait until Brian decides that he's not gonna do anything to be like, okay, I guess I'll swords it. I have to decide when priority is mine. I cannot take it back once it's passed over to Hope and then to Brian. So
if Daniel does nothing, then I do nothing. If Brian does nothing,
I can roll the dice exactly and hope
Daniel.
someone else has one.
Yeah.
But that's just it. So turn order does really
nice
matter.
To be last.
Yeah.
So like basically it comes down to this. Okay, here's two examples. All right. One is like, okay, does anyone? Am I going to do anything? No, I'll pass priority. Daniel will pass priority. Hope will pass priority. Oh, everyone pass priority? Oh, well, if that's the case, then let me do this instead. You cannot do that. You can't go back.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why second scenario.
It's kind of like mean words.
Yeah.
Can't take them back.
Yeah. That's why in the second scenario, the better thing to do is be like, okay, it's my turn or my priority right now. Okay, guys, let's discuss this. Can anyone take care of it?
Yeah,
That's why politics matters.
Talking in politics does actually matter.
This is why I say politics is a big deal. People are like, oh, I don't do politics. You know what? What I'm doing right now is politics. Can anyone help me? Okay? Can anyone, like, I have yet to pass priority. Priority is on me right now.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's why sometimes you'll look at your friend and be like,
yo,
I can get rid of this.
Hey, can you deal with this? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll be like, can you deal with this on the next turn? And they'll be like, yeah. And I'll be like, okay.
Well, yeah,
Let's definitely work out many of these.
We sure have.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, like a really good example, like let's say that I'm playing just a random scenario. I'm playing a sliver deck. All of my creatures
just super
are
random.
slivers.
That's
Yes.
never happened.
All random slivers. Somebody in the play group, let's say, plays humility. I have no response to
Can I
ETBs.
just interrupt this for 1 second?
No,
This
isn't.
never happened.
Yeah,
Never.
This isn't at. This
Brian
isn't,
doesn't own every humility. In
no,
the
this
city.
is just a random scenario. So, player 1 is playing slivers. Brian plays humility
call
for
him
some
Dan.
reason. Yeah, let's call up Daniel for. So that's just it. I have no ETBs because there's humility. All my creatures lose their abilities.
Yeah.
So I don't have a response to it. I need to work something out with someone else to deal with it.
Yeah.
Susan's cast.
Yes.
Has a 1/1 no ability.
Yeah, exactly. So
It's
there's
garbage.
a really, really fun thing we did find the other day. Just super weird tangent. Humility doesn't remove creature type.
Yeah.
Oh. So you can still coat of arms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
just losing
you
abilities.
can still coat of arms.
Nice.
But even better than that, although they're 1/1 creatures without abilities, you can still copy them if your commander is a Nala from the command zone with her ability. So they still are wizards. I can still do it. If a Nala's not on the field,
Yeah.
she doesn't lose the ability. So I was playing with Brian, and I was just sitting there spam copying my 1/1 wizards.
You've got 1,000 1/1 garbage wizards.
I did have a bunch of garbage wizards, but
Fun.
it cost Brian cost 30 to attack Brian.
I mean, worth.
Brian's a monster.
Sometimes it'd be like that.
But yeah, that's just it. So
Play green.
when you play those, when you have those situations,
Yeah.
not every deck is going to be able to deal with everything.
Yeah.
And you might not want to use your answer. In that same situation Sherman was talking about, he might also be holding that Path to Exile, but he might be holding it for something else.
Yeah.
And hey, can anyone help me
I'm
deal with
probably
this?
holding it.
You don't have to let everyone know that you do have an answer. Just can anyone help me out? Okay, then I guess I'll. But you have to do it like Sherman said while you have the priority still, because once you lose it, you just don't get it unless someone else does something.
Yeah, then I can react again or whatever, you know.
Yeah, if it
pass
goes-
priority around again.
If it goes back around, then it's like, oops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and it's one of those things too, like in the Phage example, you might say that you don't have anything, you don't want to help because you want that person to die.
Yeah. You don't.
I don't want to.
Or you don't want the phage to go at you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, exactly. Let it go at Daniel because then it was not
Don't
coming to
anger
me,
the
and then
Phage.
then you can hold it until it's a problem for you. Like if you're playing it to win and not to like save your friend.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what
You save your answers, yeah.
Yeah, you save
Yeah.
your answers for yourself. Why would I save Daniel from dying?
Let's be honest. Sometimes holding them really backfires once that creature you're feeling
Yep.
is hexproof.
Yeah, totally.
So fancy boots.
But that's the thing. Like sometimes it's not. Like sometimes you got to decide. Like, is this going to be worth it? Because it's so easy, exactly, to slot in some nice shoes.
Well, like you said, honestly, being the last person to get the chance to resolve or respond is a really good thing because you get a chance to. If I'm again turn order, Sherman, Daniel, Hope, Brian. I might have a great response, but I have to use it before anyone else gets a chance to use theirs.
Use it or lose it, homie.
And then it still passes around again. Then Hope, Brian, and Sherman can all respond to what I'm casting and see if it actually is going to go on.
I want to counter Daniel's Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yes.
And then Daniel
Still gets hit with Phage.
dies.
Amazing.
That actually reminds me, we got to go back one step real quickly here. I want to mention one thing that I see a lot. And that's, let's go back to the pre-combat main phase. One thing that I wanted to mention that I totally forgot about is that, and a lot of new players will do this. Let's say I'm the new player and I'm going to tap like for 8 mana and I'm going to drop 3 creatures down at the same time. No. Don't do that.
Yeah,
Please,
you have to.
don't do that.
Well, and the order you do it does matter.
Totally.
Yeah.
So does the mana you tap, etc. Like, a lot of times people will be like, oh, can I untap this? Do you care? Lots of people won't, but the more competitive your
They're
group or
gonna
anything
care.
like that, they're definitely going to care.
Yeah.
When things are down to the wire of 1 mana makes a difference, no, you're not untapping that mountain,
Yeah,
you
it's
lunatic.
not my problem that you tapped it for colorless, you
Yeah.
idiot.
Yeah. But like, you know, it does matter for when they come in, how they're sequenced out, you know, you have to give everyone a chance to respond because they're all source free speed.
Yeah, you can't drop 3 at once.
Yeah.
Like,
But we see that. We really do see that.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
right? So
Like I say all the time, my favorite story is watching somebody Pact of Force of Negation and Force of Will,
Yeah.
the Soul Ring and Mana Crypt. I thought it was hilarious, but the player did do the exact same thing. It was okay, land, Soul Ring, Mana Crypt,
yeah.
or whatever. Yes, or Mox Diamond. Sorry, whatever one it was.
who cares?
Doesn't matter.
But yeah, they try to slap them all down, and so no. Let me do this.
Let me respond.
Yeah.
And because he might not have taken that action knowing that so much ramp was coming. You might not Force of Will a Soul Ring if you see just the Soul Ring or just that, but knowing that those 2 are coming out and that's 2 of the 7 cards you drew for your ramp, then it's definitely worth it. So if you go too fast, you do show your hand a little bit and stuff, right?
Yeah, because if it was me, if it tap one turn one land Soul Ring, I would have been like, okay, fine. So he's going to be off fast start. Then if he casts like the Mana Crypt or whatever, it's like, okay, whoa, I got to counter that.
Deal with the Mana Crypt.
Yeah. So now I still have at least 1 mana source because you said like it was until turn 5 he put down the second land.
He didn't get anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's the thing. Okay.
Playing Marwyn.
But that's the thing here, okay? It's just like when you drop them like that, people have to have a chance to respond. You're not giving them that chance. You're like you said, Daniel, you're showing your hand. Okay.
I'm super guilty of it all the time.
Yeah.
I sit there, I tap 9 mana, and I say, Triumph of the Horde's Overwhelming Stampede.
And I'm like, I'm going to count the
I slap her down on the table real quick.
Yeah.
And then, someone's like, wait a second, because they might not counter, he's just got these 0/1 plant tokens and stuff. They might not do it.
Yeah.
Right? So, everyone is guilty of trying to speed through the turns a little bit. But like I said, that is my signature move of slapping them down on the table.
And that could be like somebody's biggest failure in the game. Is exactly that.
Oh, yeah.
Showing your hand.
Letting someone know what you
love.
have. Yeah, exactly. Letting someone know what you have before it.
I think my mistake, or what I do in this circumstance, is where I play a creature, but then I'm looking at my cards, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm going to put out my Beast Whisperer first, and then
So you get the extra card draw. Yeah.
But you've showed people that you have both of them, and then...
Yeah. So
or people saying, I should have done this. I should have lightning bolted first. And you're like, so he's holding a lightning bolt. Cool.
Yeah. So
I played no birds.
True.
So I had to jump back. Sorry, everyone. I just had to jump back just because I thought this was a really important thing, and I totally forgot to mention it. So we had to go back.
A lot of people do that. Like I'm a very experienced player, and I do it all the time. Like I said, I slap those down.
That's what I was saying about developing bad habits.
Yeah.
So let's go back to combat. Okay,
Yeah.
Brian's attacking me, passing priority. Okay, I can declare blockers. since it's my priority, let's say I throw a 1/1 chump block. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and after that, Daniel can respawn, Hope can respawn. And then after that, he's declared attacks. I've declared blockers. Now we going to the damage part. Okay.
Assuming that nothing else has happened.
Assuming nothing else happens.
So at the declaration of blockers, then I would then be able to say, give my guy buff it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
After.
totally.
Oh, yeah,
if
yeah,
you,
yeah,
if
totally.
you have either a mana ability
This is
that
where
does
you
that.
make the big creatures.
Yeah.
You make them
that's-
bigger
Yeah,
or
well, that's-
smaller.
You can buff them. You can drop an instant. You can.
Bounce them.
Yeah, do
so they
it
don't
up.
Die.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you can if I have a secure tri-belter and I choose to block against something that's like a 10/10 with no tramples, just let's say vanilla 10/10, I can block and then I can sack secure tri-belter and it's still declared block and no damage is going to go through.
short of trample, exactly. It's not getting
It's
through.
dope.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things is sacking in response to blocking. Like
Yep.
sacking your blockers after
Yeah.
they're declared. It's awesome.
So with
Hit
that,
damage.
then we get in damage. So we have first strike damage, then regular damage, and then last strike if you're playing unstable or whatever. So
Don't.
the super slow zombie, last damage.
Well, double strike. Double strike creates a
double
second
strike.
damage phase for combat where the first hits and then it's that.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was looking at that going, well, wait a minute.
What about that? Double damage.
Where's the double damage?
Yeah, double strike basically just has the first strike, it hits first, and then
hits
it will
again.
hit a second time, whereas first strike just means it deals damage staggered. It's not a separate combat.
Yeah. So you have first strike damage, and then the regular damage where it goes through, and then from there, like creatures die, people take damage, yada yada yada. Okay, so with that, okay, we come down to the combat damage stat. Okay, you can still activate instances and abilities and use activate abilities during this time. But like if combat damage is gone through and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna fog, that doesn't work.
No, it's too late.
At the
It's too late.
combat Damage stat. Could I flash in something that gives infect to kill the player if it was lethal enough?
After declare blockers.
Yeah.
So it'd have to...
You have to do it before damage is dealt.
before damage is dealt. Because damage is dealt all at once in one...
Okay, just
Spell
that being
slow.
labeled the combat damage step kind of is a little bit misleading because I feel at this step the damage is being assigned. So
Yeah,
So that's
so-
the combat damage step is kind of... It's more like a state-based thing of like after everything is resolved, no one receives priority, everything takes its damage, including you, and you can go from there. So if abilities trigger, again, things like that, alternate replacement effects can happen, but generally I swing with a Llanowar, you swing with a Llanowar, they're going to die. We're not going to be able to be like, oh, okay, we'll do this. Yeah. You can regenerate in response to them dying, but the damage all happens at once. State-based actions are checked to see if anything is happening to them. And if they're not able to be regenerated or whatever, they are destroyed, gone.
Yeah. So the reason why this is the case is like, once again, let's say both of you guys are attacking with Llanowar. If Daniel passes priority and then...
Llanowar.
Me?
yeah. And then like you pass... Brian, you pass priority, so they would technically kill each other. Let's say like they make it so that you can't say like, oh, since you're passing priority as well, I'm just gonna giant growth it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll save mine because I know you don't have anything to do.
That statement exactly though, since you're passing priority as well.
Yeah.
Like you're past the point. You're past priority.
Yeah. You can't be like, well, we both aren't going to do anything. Well, I changed my mind. I'm going to do this.
Do something.
Because now I know you're not going to do anything.
Anyone who plays with me should be very worried about the phrase, do you have a response? Yeah. Because it always means that I do. So I always wait and I'm like, oh, do you have a response to this? And they're like, no. And I'm like, all right. Here we go.
Now we're going to go off because you can no longer respond to this.
Yeah, my turn.
I always wait for you to say, are you sure you want to do that?
That's my favorite. I'm like, yeah.
I'm like, oh boy, he's making threats. What?
Yeah, Daniel's holding 5 lands, a soul ring, and are you sure you want to do this? Uh-huh.
Uh-huh, yeah, totally. But we don't know
you
that.
might not die this turn, but soon.
But someday. So that's combat. It's
so that's combat. We do all the damage is dealt, and then after that we go to end combat stat.
Really interesting as well. Not partially a stack thing, but still a state based. Damage stays marked until the end of the turn.
Yes.
So it's
So like if you have a 3/3 and it's taken 2 damage, I can do 1 damage to it and then it dies.
at later on in the turn
game.
until until damage falls off later.
Yeah.
But for the turn, it's always marked that way, and things will always apply after that combat damage, especially because it's the most common damage step that we're going to see and stuff. You're going to see more of that than you are of lightning bolts.
Well, and it's the same way too that you can do there are some creatures that can ping for 1 damage to a creature,
Yep.
and then when that creature dies, something happens.
Yeah.
So if you ping them for 1 and then you attack and somebody blocks, or you force it to block, or whatever it may be, and then that creature dies.
Yep.
Like if it's 3/3 again, do 1 damage, you have a 2/2, bing
Yep.
bing boom.
Yeah. So
It's basic math.
basic math. Yeah, that's fair.
We love
Okay, so like
love math in this house.
that's basically the combat step. Okay,
Yeah.
and then we're going to go to the second main phase.
Yeah, which you can do the same stuff in your post-combat main phase that you can do in your pre-combat.
Yeah,
main
exactly.
phase.
Cast your sorceries. You can
Play
cast
land if you
instant
Play a
Play
land if you didn't
land.
play it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you had a draw trigger from an attack, and you've got the
you
ability
got
to
the
get something
land.
out.
Yeah. So everything that we said in the main phase pre-combat, just insert here.
Yeah.
You know, same thing except for the declare attacks. You know.
Control C, Control V.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Cut and paste. So, but that's the second main phase, and then we're going to go to the end step, which is
Parlay.
always fun. You and your parlay.
parlay.
So, end step is really, really interesting because in Commander we see people playing in end step often.
Yeah. During your end step, I'll do this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
After a lot of people wait until end step has triggers as well. A lot of at the beginning of the end step or at the end of the turn.
Yeah.
Those
At the
all
end of the
trigger.
turn is at the beginning of the end
Yes,
step.
exactly. Those trigger there, and then people can respond to those triggers, or can respond before the cleanup phase.
Yeah.
Archfiend of Depravity or whatever, you can choose up to 3 creatures to sacrifice the rest.
Yeah, so end step actions happen, and it leads into the final part of the turn, which is the cleanup phase, which is just a very, very confusing place for everyone.
Yeah, especially if you play the Gitrog.
Yeah. So the whole reason I built the Gitrog deck is because it's fun, but it's to use an end phase cleanup mechanic. So the Gitrog is whenever a land's put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. I have 8 cards in hand. I discard a card to the cleanup phase. I draw a card. It's now set
Sorry,
another
you discard
trigger.
a land?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Sorry. Discard a land. It hits the graveyard. I draw a card. I'm in the cleanup phase. I had discarded down. Now I have 8 again. The cleanup phase will refresh endlessly until
It'll
I
keep
have
checking.
7 cards. Yeah, so if anything happens to take me out of the cleanup phase, I will still go to the cleanup phase, and I will have to have 7 cards or less continuously throughout it.
Yeah, and this is why Gitrog is so powerful in that sense, because during the cleanup phase, people can't react.
It's very difficult to interact with him in the cleanup phase.
Yeah. So, and like it is like just seeing people turn through, like go through their whole deck.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just insane.
Sit and discard through it, because for a lot of in Gitrog, one of the main combos, and not even one of the main,
main combo.
You use Dakmor Salvage, which has dredge, so you discard it, get your draw, and keep putting cards in so that you keep refreshing your draw while you bring it back to hand. Generally, you need a discard outlet to do that. You need like Olivia's Dragoon, something like that, Putrid Imp, any of those kind of cards to discard. They're just cards that let you discard a card as an activation cost. But the cleanup step is an extra part of it. So if you do have enough cards in hand, you can start actually going through your deck and cycling it the way that the Gitrog deck is meant to do.
Yeah.
And it's really, really fun because it keeps cleaning everything up. Another important thing while we're talking about the stack in general, wait until people are done discarding to start your turn.
Yeah.
Because like
Yes.
it might not...
I always wait.
You don't want to say that your friends are cheating, and I don't think anyone does cheat specifically. But if I have 30 cards in my hand and you start playing your turn and you pump out 40 elves,
I'm gonna
I'm gonna second guess that damnation or
Yes.
the wrath of God, any of
Well,
those
that's
things.
the thing. It's like people always say, like when I'm waiting, they're like, "Oh, I'm just discarding."
Yeah,
Like,
I always
I'm
say,
gonna
wait.
yeah, I'm no rush, just discard
I'm
down
like, that's
because
fine.
you don't want people to, again, you don't want to show your hand too early. You don't want to see.
Well, and you also don't want to like have that in the back of your mind that like you play and your friend's discarding, and then all of a sudden they just happen to have the card that can deal with the thing that you just
again,
played.
it's not a cheating thing. That's human nature. We all are analytical when we look at the game. And if I'm discarding while Sherman's playing a bunch of cards, then I'm going to try, and when I'm deciding what's in my hand, I'm going to play. You decide based on the relevant information.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, if you say, "Oh, I would like to respond to that," and you still have 12 cards in hand.
Well, or let's even say let's say that I'm playing just a big creatures deck. I'm just in green. Let's say I'm playing Atlapalani. Everyone knows Atlapalani is a big tribal because you're cycling through. I've got 10 cards in hand. I'm deciding which ones I want to get rid of based on what available mana I have,
and
what the board state is.
informations.
Again, how we're sitting turn order, Hope would go next. Let's say that Hope, while I'm discarding, plays Braids.
Yeah.
This is going to change the math of what I want to discard exponentially. Like, I'm going to be looking at it and say, oh, well, now I can put one of these in for free. I'm not going to discard Elish Norn now because I might not have had that mana to play it. I might have only been stuck at 4 mana.
Yeah. But now I can put it in for free.
Exactly. So it's going to change what I'm doing entirely. So definitely wait until people are done. It's not specifically a stack thing, but it really, really is an important way to play the game. I know
it's like let the phases resolve. Like the cleanup phase is not done until you're discarded down. It's not your turn yet.
Yeah, not only will you become a better player, but you'll force your group to actually think more. And a lot of us, like, no one wants to think that anyone's playing like that. And again, it's not a specific cheating. No one's looking at you and being like, I want to take advantage of Brian here because you want to
do that all night, Brian.
It's something that me and Daniel say a lot, like in life, but it's not that they would, it's that they could.
Well, and it's not even that.
It's not that you would, but it's like you can, and it would make sense. You'd be crazy not to.
Everyone's going to play the game with whatever knowledge is available. Totally. Let's say I'm sitting and I'm playing a game. I'm in a blue deck, and I get a phone call, and I put my hand down because I want to take my phone call instead. It's not my fault if everyone sees like 3 counter spells. It's going to change how they play. No one's going to just pretend they didn't play and just keep playing like that. Like, any information that becomes public is public. People are going to respond based on what they know they have. So I flash cards at people all the time. Like, you do that, I will wreck you.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we just think that sometimes I'll do that just because I think it's funny. Like, I'll just flash cards at my friends, whatever. Like,
hey, would it be
check this out?
Hey, would it be crazy if I played this?
Yeah.
Well, and, like,
do you like my land?
Sometimes your friends don't even know. Like, you're like this hand. Look at this.
Yeah.
Like,
but
no one's gonna believe you. You'd be like, it's not this.
But that's what I mean, right? Like, you're gonna play the game with whatever information is public. No different than if like it starts raining, right? Where if I know it's raining before it goes out, I'm probably not gonna go out in my shorts.
Yeah.
I might go out in my shorts, but again,
it might not be the smartest move.
Yeah, exactly. You are going to act with everything you do in life with whatever information's available. I'm not going to keep walking straight if there's a wall in front of me.
Challenge accepted, sir.
You could.
Sometimes I do some weird things, some real Harry Potter stuff. I was trying to get to the platform.
Copyright strike.
But yeah, so the last thing we want to actually get into is, we've talked a lot about the stack, but we just want to give the quick description of what the stack is.
Priority.
The best way to look at and the stack too. The best way to look at the stack is the way Sherman wrote it out as basically think of a big stack of pancakes.
Yeah.
I love food.
You're not going to eat the middle pancake first unless you're a psychopath.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit there and try just play Jenga with your pancakes, right? You're
middle one's warmer.
But you use that to melt the butter.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's less butter. Just 2 peas.
So that's
why I like waffles, okay? They're like syrup traps instead.
Sorry. What I was going to say though is that you generally will deal with the top down first, right? And that is how the stack is. So it's how everything responds. Whatever's on the bottom responds last, and whatever's on the top is first. So
first.
Yeah, if you want a trigger to go off in a certain way, like let's say that I want Ronus, God Eternal Ronus to enter, and double creature's power, and I want Restoration Angel's ability to blink Ronus in and out to happen after that. I put Restoration's trigger on the stack first, followed by Ronus. Ronus is the last thing available. Ronus resolves, doubles my creature's power. Restorations resolves, blinks Ronus, and I get a second double.
Yep.
Yeesh.
Yeah, I would have played that backwards. I would have brought in Neuronus and then the Angel.
Me too.
Yes, exactly. So
That's why we're saying sequencing makes a difference.
yeah, so you want to put things like that down. And we talked Chulane last week.
Yeah.
Chulane is another interesting one who uses the stack. So you cast a creature, you get your draw. The cast is still not resolved yet, but let's say that you want to, because not only do you draw and put a creature or put something down, that is a triggered ability. The triggered ability goes on the stack. If no one has a response to that going on, you get it. And then from there, you can take next actions. So let's say I draw, again, Swords to Plowshare is my example for the day. I draw Swords to Plowshare, and I had Plains in hand. I put the Plains down. I tap Swords to Plowshare, get rid of the Elish Norn, which would have killed my Llanowar that was entering.
Yeah.
Tap the Plains.
Yes.
Yes, not the Swords to Plowshare.
No, I tap the Swords to Plowshare, and I throw the Plains. I put the whole plane against this Elish Norn. So yeah, like it's just how things basically stack up. Like whatever happens, you could take the card, drop it on the table, and drop the next one on top of it, and stack them up just to see how they respond. But
Actually, a good visual indicator.
Yes.
Real talk.
but the thing that people don't realize is that you don't have to just respond to what is on the stack that was last put there. So again, Brian goes to cast Llanowar Elves with Chulane.
Yes.
Sherman goes to counterspell it. The counterspell is on the stack, and I go to... Brian goes to counter Sherman's counterspell. I have a counter creature spell. The counterspell from Brian is still going to resolve, but I can target something lower on the stack instead of something
Sherman's
higher.
counterspell is gone.
Yep.
Brian's counterspell resolved. And now Daniel counters the Llanowar Elves. Because there's nothing on the stack anymore except the Llanowar Elves.
A really good example, last word. Can't be countered by spells or ability. Counter target spell. So let's say, again, Brian's going to counter or cast Llanowar Elves. Sherman casts counterspell. Brian Dovin vetoes it. I just decide I don't want to deal with the stack anymore, and I go to counterspell the Llanowar Elves. The Llanowar is gone. Everything else on the stack will have no legal target or be gone.
Yeah.
So you can respond to any part of the stack. The only thing that stops response to the stack is, as we talked about earlier, split second. And with split second, it stops you from putting anything on the stack
Above split second.
except for mana abilities.
Yeah.
Well, mannered and triggered abilities.
But like you can't control triggered abilities.
Yeah.
So triggered abilities will still happen and be put onto the stack.
Yeah.
But like a good example is if you wipe away a split second, return target permanent to its owner's hand. If I have the red choice outpost siege.
Oh, yeah.
If I have that, a creature will still leave if you blink my thing. So if you wipe away my Perforos still is a creature, he leaves the battlefield. The triggered ability will still be put on the stack regardless of the split second. But I won't be able to do anything else in response. I can't add to the stack. But once that is gone, I can continue adding to the stack and responding again when I have priority.
Yeah, as soon as the split second spell
Resolves.
has resolved,
Yeah.
you can...
And that's the thing, like people we mentioned this last time, when someone plays split second, everyone just says like, okay, everything
That's
just
it, it's
resolved. That's
over.
it. Yeah. But it's not. You can once that spell's gone, the stack is back open again, you can add
Like,
back
actually
onto it.
Daniel that did that to me. I cast Frozen Grip and he started doing other stuff. And I was
And you're like, what are you doing?
yeah, I was like, you really can't do anything here. He's like,
Yeah.
Like after you Frozen gripped and it resolved?
yeah.
Well, yeah, because the stack still keeps going on.
Yeah.
A really, really interesting thing too, though, again, you can still use mana abilities with split second on the stack.
Yeah, like Ashnod's Altar. Or,
if you try to
Phyrexian
Cross
Altar.
and Grip my Ashnod's Altar, I can still sack 20 creatures to it because it's a mana ability.
Yeah. So, but like
I think that's actually what it was.
because that was with your was it your Slimefoot?
Yeah.
You did that.
Yeah.
Now I remember.
Yeah, someone would have tried to do that and that
Yeah,
just would have
because I remember that because it gave me an idea, and I created an Anafenza deck based around abusing split second.
Mana abilities are really, really cool, and a lot of cards have mana abilities, like Selvala Explorer Returned is a mana ability, and people can't respond to that ability. You can't do anything in response to it. It's a mana ability. It doesn't use the stack. It just happens.
Yeah.
No one can stop you gaining your life. No one can stop the card draw. short of like let's say it's a Narset and people can't draw a second card.
Yeah.
But again,
Love that.
but again,
So
rather than that actually happening, Savala's still a mana ability, and the reveal still happens. You'll still get your mana. They just won't get the draw.
Yeah.
What a mood.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The stack is a confusing, weird place.
Yeah.
But the better you get at it, the better you are at the game in general, and the better as well with the phases, how things work, and the not like going too early. Those things will really change your game. If you just take nothing away from this episode except for wait till people discard down, you're going to see an increase in how well you play.
Yeah.
Because
And how well your playgroup plays.
well,
Yeah.
and many times you're not gonna reveal what you have as easily just with that one thing. If you take nothing about the stack, nothing about how to respond, nothing about priority away, even just the waiting, casting one spell at a time rather than saying Soul Ring, Mana Crypt, Mox Diamond.
Well, we're like it's so difficult to break out of that habit just because when it's, let's face it, in Commander you have 3 other people to play before it gets to your turn, and when it's your turn you're like, yes, I'm gonna fire off on all cylinders here, and
It's been 25 minutes.
yeah,
It's a fun game.
And
We get
now we're
excited.
saying like, everyone, wait longer, have more patience, wait for people to discard. It's like it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
And it's even things like sacking 1 creature at a time versus sacking 20 creatures.
Yeah.
You know?
Like sometimes people will be like, yeah, just shortcut it. We can't do anything. Okay, fine. Then do that. But, you know, it's like walking ballista. I remove everything.
We'll
Okay.
often ask that question, like, all right.
Does anyone have responses?
Yeah, do you have responses? Because if you do, I'll do this one at a time. And you see that a lot in competitive.
Yeah.
And if you have no responses, then I'll just do it all and make it easier. It's whatever.
Yeah.
I think my takeaway with this episode, or what I want to do going forward, is I'm actually going to start saying my phases as I go through them, and just really try to, I guess, be vocal in our game, because we all say untap, upkeep, draw.
And then we're stops.
Yeah.
Because I catch myself, I'm saying it when I'm doing our streams and
Totally.
everything like that. But you notice when you do play, say, like with Florian and everything, he was very vocal about what he was doing.
Yeah, which I love.
Yeah, and like, and I think it's those players that really stand out when you're out playing.
Yeah.
Are the ones that are really vocal, letting you know what they're doing, and going through.
That's the thing I appreciate the absolute most. There's nothing that I dislike more in a Magic player than when they put something down and don't tell me what it does. I feel like you're trying to hide something.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you like that more because of how you learn to play.
Yeah.
Where I'll ask, I will say, hey, do you know what this does? And people all the time are like, yeah, it's fine. And they don't want to hear it. But I give everyone the opportunity, because there's nothing worse, like you said, of not knowing what's on the board. I don't like that.
And you do that all the time.
Yeah.
You do that all the time, where you just assume that you completely know all the wording because you've been playing for so long, and that's like a bad habit of yours. Like, a lot of the time, like, if somebody doesn't say it, you'll just be like, yeah. And then I'll be like, oh, this is, and then I'll do something, and then you'll be like, what? And you get annoyed because you're just like, I didn't know it did that. I'm like, well, you said you know what it did. So it's not my job to like tell you what it does if you say you know what it does. You know, and I'll usually read out my cards, but a lot of the time you'll just let me pass through it if we're playing one-on-one.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no harm.
Fool.
There's no harm in asking. There's no harm in asking what, or double checking what something does.
Yeah.
You can I always do that.
The thing that I say the most anytime I'm ever playing Magic is, what does that do? And what does that do? What is it? What does it do? Read it.
I will always
read the exact text.
Yeah, I will,
instead of letting somebody paraphrase.
If it's a card I'm not familiar with or I need a refresher, I'll always ask what that card does. But my biggest fault when it comes to that stuff is once they're telling me, I'm not thinking about the game anymore. I'm thinking about all the interactions I can do with that card.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, we all have bad habits, and that's one of mine.
I blow my load. I would say also one thing that I'm trying to get really a lot better at, and I don't know if anybody's noticed, but it's with declaring my steps, like you said that you're hoping to do. It's almost always I'm now like, I'm going to combat.
Yep.
That's something that I made a really big
I like to make sure, because so many people, oh no, I had something before. I give everyone their chances to respond. I always, do you have a response? Do you?
Yeah. Take your time.
Like, I would like to enter combat, because when you go to enter combat, that passes priority.
Bows politely.
The way I look at it,
the room.
the way I look at it when it comes to this stuff is when you're announcing everything, you're going through the steps. Like, people are like, oh, but like we should already know it takes a long time to explain. You know what? Well, you know what takes longer is when everyone argues. Like, no, let me do this. What? But I had priority. No, you didn't. Like, that takes way longer. It takes away from the game.
Or if someone's not paying attention and I would have done this, I'm like, well, you didn't, man. Get off your phone and watch the game.
That's
Be one with us.
Oh, I would have if
live
I
in the
would have
moment.
known. Yeah, it's like, well, you didn't, and instead you died. So that's crazy.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah. So.
But like we all like, if you do this, like we've all been through this. This is why we know.
Yeah, we're all guilty of this. So I'm not saying that like I've never been on my phone or gotten up to grab a snack and come back and be like, well, I didn't know that. It's like my problem.
We've all been through there. We're all trying to improve. We're all trying to get better.
And that's also something that we've discussed in our manners episode, our etiquette episode.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, is something like that, being present in the game. And that also makes you a better player and helps you understand things better and interactions.
And speeds up the game, too.
Totally. There's nothing worse than when somebody's like on their phone the whole, like, for your entire turn, and then it gets to their turn.
Okay,
like,
so what happened?
Did you do?
Yeah.
Oh.
So what did you play?
You would have known.
It's like, if you get a call and it's important, we will stop playing just so you can take care of it, okay?
Totally.
But don't be like, oh, no, it's fine. Just keep on playing while I message like these like 5 people and everything and set up a date with my girlfriend or whatever, or boyfriend or whoever. Like,
you shouldn't be playing Magic.
You're gonna take me on a date? Oh my god.
Yeah, Brian, you and me. Come on, let's go.
Oh, I'll go on a date.
Anyways, guys, that's just kind of how phases and the stack work. We wanted to just talk a little bit about them all, clarify it.
Hopefully give everybody a little bit more insight into the nuance of it all.
Yeah, we kind of went a little off topic on the waiting to player things, but it's still something good.
We always go
learning
off topic.
phases.
That's the point.
That's all relevant, though.
Yep.
So let us know what you think of this episode anywhere on the internet, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the whole 9. We also stream every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time as well. You can check us out on our website, intothe99.com.
You know what? At the same time, like, if you guys are downloading this, let us know how we're doing. Give us a rating.
Yeah, give us a
Rating a review. All of that is really appreciated. We love the comments, and especially on our YouTube channel, we read all the comments, and we really appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, and catch any of our streams on YouTube. We stream every Wednesday night.
And then we do
I'm
upload,
so excited for that.
the episodes of the stream. So by we, I mean Brian.
Yeah.
Jump
Sherman.
into the chat. Come and join us.
Yeah.
Like, most of us, if one of us are not playing,
We're usually in the chat.
Yeah, the other
I'm
in the
Hot
chat.
Tub Hope. Daniel's Jacuzzi Dan. So
I'm the same Maritime Gamer.
yeah. So
But yeah, no. If you as well, we like playing with anyone who listens and stuff. Reach out on the either Facebook or Instagram. We'll get you scheduled in for a game. Sherman just got set up as well, so that he can be playing some games.
Webcam in.
So we'll be able to.
you get to see some of that jank in person, baby.
Well, I think it's very nice to be able to see just how the hosts play and interact. You actually get to see and understand rather than just hear like how we play. You get to see some of the decks. You can see, do these guys actually back up what they say? Is this really how they play?
Yeah.
Does Daniel threaten everyone every game?
Do you
sure
have any
does.
responses?
Yeah.
Do I actually have a song tribal deck?
He's the most aggressive player I've ever met in my life.
I will kill you where you stand. It's a mountain.
All right, guys.
Well, I will make that mountain into a 2020, though.
On that incredible note, I think we're gonna say goodbye for the day. We'll see you next week.
Well, it's only been 3 hours already, or what?
Bye, y'all.
All right, see ya. Later.